So our instinct is quite tied to our intellect in a way, is what we've learnt. But rather than having to go into our head and think about what it is, we can actually do the thinking from our gut. So we're using our instinct. Kia ora, hi, I'm Craig Johns, high performance leadership expert, the CEO and managing partner of Speakers Institute Corporate, and the founder of Gravity of Leadership. On today's episode of the Gravity of Leadership series, we're talking about instinct versus impulse. Now let's take a step back here first. Another I, intellect. Intellect is the thoughts and ideas that we have learnt over time since we were born. It's those thoughts inside our mind on what we understand about the world and in the different areas that we have discovered along the way. And it's stored inside our brain. But then we have our instinct, which is our intuition in a way. Our instinct is our gut instinct. It's what sits deep inside of us. So when we make decisions, we either make it on logic, which is that intellect that's inside the brain, or we base it on our instinct, our intuition from our gut. And what's interesting, the difference between, say, instinct, which shows up in that moment when we need it, versus, say, impulse, which can also happen in that moment, is that instinct is based on what we have planned, prepared, and learnt over time. So our instinct is quite tied to our intellect in a way, is what we've learnt. But rather than having to go into our head and think about what it is, we can actually do the thinking from our gut. So we're using our instinct. Impulse, on the other hand, though, is when we make a decision and do something, but there is no thought to it, there's no intuition. So we impulsively do something without any thought or without any gut instinct being involved. So my encouragement to you is to lean in on your instinct, right? So that intuition that you have learned over time, that gut instinct that sits behind the decisions that you can make from deep in your heart, versus the brain or versus something that just happens out of impulse. Now, there will be those times where we have made decisions or not made decisions that we kind of feel in our gut. There's an instinct there, and sometimes we go with it and we have amazing things happen. Other times we don't go with it, and then we get really annoyed afterwards because we maybe make a decision or do something when our gut was telling us, our intuition, so our instinct was telling us not to do it. So my encouragement, listen to your gut. Make sure that you take on your intellect, but be very wary not to be that impulsive person that does something without the intellect, without the gut feeling. You just go with something. So let's stay more in the instinct space versus impulse. Remember, it's important to create a gravitational pull, not a gravitational push as a leader. What is your gravity of leadership today? Ka kite anō. I'll see you next time.